I do believe we're streaming. Looks like it. Cool. Good morning, everybody. Let me turn off that. Okay. How much time do I... I want to cut this short. I don't want to give myself too much time here. Alrighty. So, today is, what is this, the 5th Sunday of Lent?
I believe so.
Yeah, 5th Sunday. Next week is Palm Sunday. And the week after that's Easter.
Okay, quick. On Palm Sunday, what color is the altar cloth?
I think it's
Right now it's
white.
purple.
Right.
I think it's white.
It's white.
I think it's what, actually, well,
No, not till Monday, Thursday.
right. Actually, it might still be purple then. Again, whatever you put on there is fine.
Well, I would put green for the palms, but
I mean,
I'm not sure that's right.
There's no,
Look at
okay.
the hymnal.
She's got the hymnal right there.
I always say that,
On
like,
the calendar, it's two colors.
it's purple. It's purple.
Stay purple. Thank you very much.
I always say that,
Great question.
God is not going to send he's not going to smite you if it's the wrong color up there. But there was a Sunday in Oklahoma where I was preaching, and I don't know what I said, but I said something in the sermon, and immediately there was thunder and the lights went out. And it gave me pause. It's like,
Ooh. Yeah.
uh-oh. And it gave everyone else pause too, because I could see all their eyes like. But no, seriously, I mean, if the wrong color gets up there, it's not a big
Well,
deal.
thunder and lightning, okay.
Okay, so yeah, purple for Palm Sunday, then Monday, Thursday goes white, and then Good Friday it's all stripped, so you don't worry about it, and then we're back to white on Easter. So yeah,
Yeah, it was easy.
What kind of service are we gonna have on Good Friday?
the usual.
Are we gonna have two?
Oh yeah, two, the 1 o'clock and the 7 o'clock with the
I
sounds
know
and-
all
Yeah, that part.
the drill.
So after Monday, Thursday, Friday morning, I should just take that altar cloth off.
Well, it'll already be off because Thursday night we strip the altar.
Oh,
So yeah,
I
it'll.
forgot that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, we do it for you.
Easy for the altar lady. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, Christian, you weren't here for this, obviously, but I love it. The first Good Friday service I did here, because my tradition has always been more of a dramatic sort of thing. When like the traditional thing is where you like
Oh,
slam the book
yeah.
shut at the end, and
I
it's
remember
very
that.
well. Our acoustics in there are awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't just take two. I don't shut a book. I take two hymnals and I bang them together. I did not tell anybody I was doing that because in my head I'm like, everybody does it. So the very first Good Friday service, I did that, scared the bejesus out of everybody. And you were like, ah!
No, I told you I'm like a convert from the Baptist, so I wasn't used to this either. The first Good Friday service I went to at our old church, someone popped a balloon into a microphone.
Oh gosh!
Like,
Wow!
I think I about had a heart attack.
Now that would be.
That would be loud, yes.
I want to try that.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I think Mary might scream if you did that.
Who?
Mary.
You're giving me more reasons to do it.
Yeah, you're not slowing him down.
That's good publicity right there. The news headline, women faint at the local church service. I mean, that's good publicity right there.
The fear of God revived among one local community.
I love it.
Many wet spots in the pews.
Oh, so many options. So anyway, so 5th Sunday in Lent. Excuse me. So this is in our series though, the God who bleeds. So today is the God who weeps. So obviously we have the gospel reading is Lazarus. Jesus raising Lazarus from the tomb. So that's good stuff. The supporting texts, very kind of direct ones. Isaiah 53, part of our Good Friday reflections. He has borne our griefs, carried our sorrows. So there you go. Hebrews 5, just very briefly, in the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears. To him who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence, although he was a son. He learned obedience through what he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him. And of course, Gospel of John 11 is Jesus wept. Which, good trivia question, is like that. It's technically not the shortest verse in the Bible. It's only the shortest verse in English. In the Greek, Jesus wept is 3 words. The shortest verse in Greek is Philippians, yeah, rejoice always. So anyway,
Interesting.
so you can be a complete theological nerd and just be that person who ruins the party. Well, actually, which is.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it at a funeral. It wasn't a Lutheran funeral, and the minister said, "And the shortest 2 words in the Bible are Jesus wept."
Yeah, it was fine. So yeah, if you're Lutheran, "Here I stand" is a big one. You know, we say that. You know, this is our thing. "What does this mean" is another one of ours. Say that a lot. The Catechism, and then our third favorite phrase is.
Well, actually.
So, you know you're a Lutheran if all 3 of these, in some way, shape, or form. I really wanted to do a Bible study about just perfectly nice, decent things that are said in across Christianity that we have to go and be like, well, actually. And there's a handful of them. I think I even talked about that one day when Lee said something, and I was like, true, but I would say it like this. There's always something. So, Jesus wept. So with the Lazarus account, gosh, I mean, there's not much to say about it that's probably anything other than what you're accustomed to hearing about it. I mean, this is a it's very much a great resurrection text and kind of looking ahead to the cross. The interesting thing, if you take a look at, we jump in at verse 23 here, but yeah. So begins with, now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, a village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Jesus, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus said it, or heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So, right there, you're like, Jesus said this is not for death. This illness does not lead to death. Which, I mean, there's really no issue there. You say, oh, but Lazarus died. Well, it's like, well, and he rose again. Jesus raised him from the dead. But there's kind of a couple nice little things here. He says, does not lead to death. Well, on one hand, he raises Lazarus from the dead. Okay. So there's that. There's the idea of the resurrection at the end of time, that Lazarus will be raised again, so the illness does not have the final say over all that. But you could even point it to Mary and Martha, which is a fun spiritualizing way to kind of get around it completely. Whereas to say that, this illness, while it did lead to Lazarus's initial death, it did not lead to death in terms of Mary and Martha believe. Especially Martha expresses belief in Christ. So that this whole thing, which goes along with what Jesus says, so that God, the Son of God, may be glorified through it for God's glory. But I mean, there's no problem there with Jesus says this doesn't lead to death. It's like, but he died. It's like, yeah, but the idea is like it leads to death and it's over. It's like, well, here's the illness. Yeah, it leads, to resurrection in Jesus Christ. Death was just a blip in that one. I think we talked not too long ago about Lazarus had to die again. Otherwise, I think I mentioned it before, where it's like, was this a nice thing that Jesus did for Lazarus? Like, Lazarus died and was in paradise, and Jesus was like, come back here. Like, dude, I was in heaven. You brought me back here, and then he dies again and goes off to heaven. I don't stress that as like a doctrinal kind of thing. It was just like a fun little thought, like, oh, but anyway.
Well, that's what happened to my dad. He died and we saw that big bright light, and then they
Right.
resuscitated him, and he was really mad. He said, it was a great place. Why did you bring me back? My mom goes, well, you're helpful around the house.
I like, Jesus says Lazarus is being brought back, so God's glory might be. He was brought back to help with chores. That's
Martha hands him a broom.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, the guy who I talked about in the sermon last week, who's been in and out of the hospital this last time, he was telling me about that he was like, he thought he was going, and they all thought he was going. And he described this vision that he had and just like this experience, and it was very much kind of a traveling, and going to heaven, and like he felt this peace and calm, and like and then right at the end of there, it's like the door closed, and they're like, nope, not yet. And then he and then next thing you knew, he's awake, and he's like, why? He's like, it's almost there. So yeah, I kind of feel like that might be a little bit of Lazarus. Would love to know what Lazarus, the first thing that he would have said after he was raised. Like, really?
In movies, they say it's not your time yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. So, okay, you know what? Let me just read this. So he hears about Lazarus being ill. He says, don't worry, this doesn't lead to death. And then he stays 2 days longer where he was. Then picking up verse 7. Then after he said this to his disciples, let us go to Judea again. Disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and you're going to go there again? And Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble because they see the light of this world, but those who walk at night stumble because the light is not in them. After saying this, he told them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right. Yeah, I love the disciples. They're so cute. Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring to merely sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. Honestly, that's probably my favorite part of the story. I mean, the rest of it's great for like funerals. I mean, it's just, I am the resurrection and life. I mean, that's just awesome stuff. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The first part is just fun. Because in my head, it's just the way it plays out. It's just the disciples like, wait, he's asleep? Then he's fine. I mean, it's so naive and like, ooh. And then Jesus' whole thing where he's like, he's asleep, let's go awaken him. What? Well, can't anyone else wake him up? And Jesus is like, he's dead. Like, did you not get? He was ill, he's sleeping now. It's like, do I really have to put these pieces together? Which, hey, if you've ever experienced like a moment in Bible study or a service or anything else where something that you've heard or read over and over and over again, and finally it clicked, and it seemed so simple and stupid at the time, like, how did I miss this? You're in good company. We are all disciples, and all that entails. So then you get the whole thing where he was ill, and then Jesus waits 2 days. So he waits longer. So Jesus waits until he's dead. I mean, he's like, okay, purposely waiting for that. Now, I think at some point, well, this was what, the fourth day then? I think it says later he's been in the tomb for 4 days.
Yeah.
Right. So we read later in the text that when Jesus finally gets there, it's now the fourth day after he's died. And I seem to remember reading or hearing something to the effect of some scholarly work being done about, or saying that it was important that it was the fourth day because after 3 days,
Body
I think
decomposes.
the Jews had a superstition that the spirit hovered over the body. For
yeah,
3
I
days.
think there was, but even in that, I think that's even a little bit suspect if that was completely like. If that's the case, which this is one of these things where Rachel here, she'd probably laugh at us and be like, "That's not true." A Jewish lady, Christian convert.
Sure.
So it was always fun whenever we go over anything in the Old Testament, and she's like, "Yeah, you guys don't know it." I'm like, "Fair." But I think the general idea is there is like, don't worry so much about that. It's like, don't put too much stock into that, because especially as a superstition, which is like, yeah, superstition is not really good theology. I don't know if that's a surprise or anything, but the idea is just that he waited. I mean, that there was a delay, and he's been dead. And really, you don't even need to get to the superstition aspect of it. They're like, he's been in there 4 days, he gonna stink. They knew he was dead. There was like no question about this. So yeah, the first part is just awesome. And Thomas is just...
It's crazy we call him Doubting Thomas
I know.
when he's like, all right, I'm ready to die with you. Let's go do this.
Right. Well, and then especially the whole idea where, Thomas gets such a bad rep. Well, he seems to be the only one who's actually out and about in public. When everybody else is like hiding, like, ooh, and Thomas is like, what are you guys doing, man? He's out there. So yeah, Thomas is pretty bold. Even compared with Peter, Peter's like, no, Christ, that'll never happen to you. No, we will make sure this doesn't happen. Thomas is like, let's just go die. So yeah, he gets a bad rap. But Thomas is very much like, oh, let us go, that we may die with him. Which is just a fun thing. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything in particular about the text that you have thought about, have questions about. Today, the approach that I'm taking with it is, what I'm drawing out in the sermon is kind of the contrast with how Jesus deals with grief, essentially. Because you have Mary and Martha. They both say the same thing to Jesus initially. They both say, Lord, if you were only here, he'd still be alive. Martha says it, Mary says it. Same thing. Now Martha adds a little bit up to it. She says, Lord, he would still be alive if you were here, but I know that God will do whatever you ask of him. That he will listen to you, he'll do whatever. So Martha is grieving her brother. But she acknowledges that Jesus has power and that God listens to him. So she kind of responds. She has a nice, faithful kind of dealing with grief. She's like, I'm sad, but here Jesus is, and I know you can do something even if she's not sure what, or she doesn't ask him specifically. And then he takes her through this nice, like, hey, he says, your brother will rise again, to which... and she doesn't obviously think he's talking about right now. She's like, yeah, I know he'll rise on the last day. And he's like, look, I am the resurrection and life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. Yada, yada, yada. Do you believe this? And she says, yes, Lord, I believe you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. So she has a very faithful response to grief. And the way he deals with it is with a faithful response, saying this is the word. She kind of responds with the word. I know that, God will listen to you. He'll do whatever you ask. So he responds with a word. Mary, on the other hand, says it and just cries. And then Jesus cries with her. So she weeps, he weeps. Jesus doesn't tell Mary the same thing he told Martha. He doesn't see Mary crying and be like, hey, I'm the resurrection and life. He doesn't go through a spiel. Not that she doesn't need to hear it, but she's crying. So he joins with her. He enters into that. So it's a really nice kind of example for us in general about, how we deal with people going through grief. Read the room. Don't just jump into it and just maybe let them take the lead. If they're responding in faith, cool. Meet them right there with it. Say amen. If they are responding in sorrow and hurt, cry with them. Be hurt. Don't. The less you say, the better off you probably are. And in the sermon, I list out a couple horrible things that you can say when somebody is grieving. Lord, I've heard it all. But yeah, anyway. And kind of the thrust with that is just, Jesus deals with death like it's actually a real thing. Because you can spiritualize it too much and say, well, Jesus knew what he was going to do, So it's like, well, if he knew what he was going to do, why did he cry? I mean, for him, Lazarus wasn't truly dead then, right? Because he was like, I'm just going to raise him to life. So were his tears performative? Were they just like, well, no. He recognizes the reality of suffering. Like, yes, this sucks. And honestly, that's a good thing to say to somebody, like in grief. When somebody dies, instead of like trying to come up with some empty phrase or platitude, just say, this sucks. They'll agree. Be like, yeah, it does. Because we don't deal with death very well. We try to make it not real or a thing. Death is a natural part of life. No, it's not. It's just not. I hate that so much. That's the one that still bugs me. I've mellowed out from seminary quite a bit. Hey, I have. You didn't know me back
I'm
then.
only imagining the seminarians that I know.
Oh God! Oh, we're horrible. You're a seminarian just out of seminary is just insufferable. I ruined Silent Night for people. I ruined the Wise Men for people right out of the gate. I just because I'm like, what a friend we have in Jesus. That's not. Please, he's more than a friend. It's just the worst. Seminarians are the worst. So yeah, I have mellowed out quite a bit. But that's the one that still gets me is death is a natural part of life. Because it's so not. I mean, death is the aberration. Death is the consequence of sin. Death is what broke life. And when Jesus weeps, it's like, yeah, because it's wrong. And it's death is not something that we should just gloss over, or it's definitely not something we should dwell on. But it's not something to gloss over or to cover over or to be like, oh no, pretend it's like, yay. It's like, no. It's not good at all. We can rejoice that this person is now with Jesus. If they died in faith, they're with Christ now, waiting for the resurrection. We'll see him again, absolutely. But it doesn't negate the reality of what we deal with, and that's why Jesus weeps. He's like, yeah, this is the reality you live in. And honestly, it'd be like, yeah, you're crying now, Martha, you're going to cry again. But Jesus still weeps. God is grieved by our sin. God feels this, he's hurt by our sin. So there's a lot of good stuff in here just about dealing with death. Crying tears are this good. It's weird to say that crying tears over death is a godly thing. They have to be, right? Because Jesus does it. It's good to be, or it's God pleasing to be sad over death. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. So if anybody is like, no, you just need to move on from it, dry those tears and move on. It's like, shut up. You could say that. It's like, no. Yes, but no. There's a time. I think something somewhere says that. There's a time for... I forget what it says exactly, but something like that.
Ecclesiastes is just time to mourn.
I'm I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Oh, I'm thinking of that song.
Well, that song
Mary.
is literally word for word from Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Is that the birds? Right?
Birds, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Remember the first time I put that two and two together there, I'm like, oh, it's from there.
Literally the most biblical
I was like,
song.
whoa. It was the same, oh gosh. So when I was really young, I think I might have mentioned before, Create Me a Clean Heart. Because I don't know what version we used to sing in my home church. It was out of the Blue Hymnal. So I was like, create in me a clean heart, oh God. It's like, that's just what we sing all the time. And then when I read the psalm, I'm like, oh, it's from, I just thought it was like a cool little church song we sang. I'm like, oh, whoa, that's where we were, okay, cool. I was a sheltered little Christian. Which just goes to show that, we need to do a better job catechizing our people, because somehow I got through. Thank God. So anyway, enough of me rambling. Is there anything in the text that jumps out to you that is of particular interest or comfort or confusion?
So there's one other place, right, where you get a story that contrasts Mary and Martha really strongly. When Martha's working and Mary's just listening at Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
Is there anything to connect the two? Is there any way we could learn from these two different types of people and the different approaches Jesus takes with them, I guess?
Probably.
Good answer. I agree.
Yeah,
Next.
there is. Next question. I mean, well,
Well, it's like Martha who says, if you take away the stone, there's going to be an order. And Mary's going probably, oh, please just raise him from the dead.
See, yeah.
I mean, there's such a contrast between the two women.
Martha's concerned about, cleaning up stuff and like.
Yeah, I think Martha's the older one. For
Yeah.
some reason, just the way she
Maybe.
behaved,
Well,
I'm the
oh, yeah.
firstborn, and yeah, we would be more practical.
It could be. See, in my Lutheran brain, as I process the is there a connection or can we take something? I went with, well, I'm sure there's a good way and there's probably a lot of bad ways we can connect.
Sure.
And wrong ways, because can't be Lutheran unless we point out all the deficiencies first.
There's some wrong things all the way through the Bible.
Well, yeah. So yeah, you've got Martha who initially is not so See, I think it's interesting how Martha initially doesn't seem concerned about learning.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she's not concerned, but she's more concerned about hey, let's make sure everything is right and tidied up and whatever. And she chastises Mary for just sitting there listening. But then Martha comes back and she's the one who's like, yes, I believe. She's hurt. Maybe it's to help correct a simplistic view of the previous encounter where we say, see, doing is bad, listening is good. We can't just draw that simplistic of a thing. It's there's time. Well, maybe there's times, but what she was focused on in the time, in the moment, that wasn't correct. But to say that she wasn't dialed in is well, no, clearly she was, because she couldn't have said what she said here. Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. It's dang. I mean, in so many words, that's more than what Peter said so far. So she's really got it. So there's that. Mary, she listened intently. I mean, this is why I say a bad connection is because you kind of flip it then, where you say in the first example, Mary's the good example, Martha's the bad one. And then here you got Martha is a good example, and Mary's, she doesn't respond in faith, she's just crying. Well, no, I mean, that's real. So I think you can draw some connections and then parallels there. I don't know. What do you think?
No, that's about right.
I'm open to
I
suggestions.
don't know. I didn't have any clear idea about it necessarily. Just that you have these two stories that both very, very clearly contrast these two sisters.
Yes.
And you have Jesus dealing with them in each one. In this one, I mean, he doesn't chastise either.
Oh,
right?
no.
In the first, he chastises Martha,
Right.
very gently. But I just wonder,
Which I think would be, Martha received it and she
I
went
think
the
you
right
learn something
direction.
about them. Like, if nothing else, you learn something about Mary and Martha and their personalities. I mean, Mary
Yes.
seems soulful and introspective or something like this. Like, she's feeling the grief much more
Right,
deeply.
yeah.
She's also just sitting and listening rather than being active. I think there's something there. But that's kind of beside the point. I don't necessarily care to know who they are. All I
Right.
care is what
Well, no,
we
I'm trying
learn
to-
from.
I'm trying to decide which denomination would be represented.
Yeah, sure. Martha's a Pentecostal, up and about.
I was gonna say either that or Orthodox, because it's like, it stinks in there. We need to get the incense in here and clear it out. So you can have fun with that. But yeah, there's probably some interesting ways you can compare those. Let's see.
Claudia's the Mary. Claudia is the Mary.
Oh.
My sister, my younger sister.
Um,
I mean, if you really have two sisters and you compare them
Yeah,
apples
well,
to apples in their interaction on anything, could you come up with this kind of situation? Because I feel like that's true.
let's see. I think there's a nice little connection here when Martha meets Jesus. She says, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask of Him." And then, what does Jesus say when they open a tomb? Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. Now, I don't want to draw too direct a line to be like, he's responding to Martha's kind of request, because she doesn't say, "Bring my brother back," but she does sort of kind of leave it out there, like, God will listen to you. Like, you have power. If he would have been here, he would be saved. You have power, and God listens to you. And then he circles back to that and says, "Lord, you've heard me. You've heard me. I know you hear me, but on this account, so that everybody might believe." So Martha is she's sort of, in a way, kind of appealing on behalf of her brother, but then also the people around, because Martha is like dialed in. She knows. She's got it. And Jesus is like, "All right, so God, you heard me, and this is for Mary who's weeping, the people who have gathered here," because it's like in that whole scene, Martha is the one who is like, she's got the right, I would say she's got the right comprehensive response. I mean, she grieves. I mean, we don't see that, but I mean, she's part of the grieving, but she's grieving with hope. She knows that he'll be raised on the last day. Not that Mary doesn't believe it, but I mean, she's just in the grief. She's just in the tears. And the people are in sympathy mode. So Martha is the one who's really dialed in. So Jesus' response really is kind of for everybody else. Martha gets it. Martha's like, yes. 9:40, cool. But I wouldn't push that too far, because I don't like putting words into people's mouths that aren't actually there. But I like making fun of the disciples, so there's that. Any other questions or thoughts about well, I guess the other text here.
On the Hebrews one,
There's always the Hebrews.
in what sense was Jesus being made perfect? In,
Oh, sure. When the timer goes off, you pull that one out.
No. I'm sure it's a simple answer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Being made perfect. So not in the sense of like he was imperfect, but more like complete, like a perfect circle. Is he's being made because although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the source. So, like Jesus before the cross was perfect. So he was perfect. He was a son, perfect, everything. He was obedient. But we would say, like in the context of his ministry and our salvation, like going the passion, the cross, death, resurrection. In that process, he was being made
like the perfect sacrifice, like
Right.
in the thought of like, dang it, brain.
You only have a few more weeks of
Prophecies.
being able to proclaim that.
Prophecies.
Yes.
Prophecies.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So
In his
fulfillment.
humanity, he was tempted, so
Yep.
he could have fallen, maybe.
No. No. Just because he was tempted doesn't mean there was a possibility. I mean, he was tempted without sin. So just because he is tempted, I mean I forget which heresy you start to go down with that slippery slope. There's one of them. I know it's one of them, but you know, and it's like you say that, and it's like, well, then how is he tempted like us? Because, you know, if he was tempted like us, he would have had the capacity to fall into temptation. It's like, you know.
How do we understand
This is one of these paradoxes that they're like
how
the center
Lucifer
of.
fell then?
Yeah. That's a good Lutheran answer. Like, that's part of the mystery.
Us and the Orthodox would always back like mystery. I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, it is kind of like it's one of those just that we can't really see how that works because logically that doesn't work, right? That how can he be truly tempted if he can't? But I mean, logically, a lot of things break down. You know, the Trinity for one. So yeah, leaving it to the mystery of that, and just that, and I mean, I don't want to be too reductive, but kind of like, well, because the Bible tells me so, kind of answer. We're like, well, how can Jesus be this? I mean, sometimes it's like, because it says so. I used to hate that answer. I'm okay with it now. It's like there's some things that I'm like, you know what? I can't explain every little thing, and sometimes, well, I mean, you take it on faith, because that's the whole point, is because this thing's not seen. It's not that we get the proof and confirmation visually or even experientially. It's like His Word. So that would be the Lutheran side, and the Orthodox would say mystery, and then we just walk hand in hand lobbing tomatoes at the Catholics, and we're all happy. Anything else? All right. Thank you all. That was fun. Ready, break.